The Adventures of David Perkins. Like, subscribe, comment.
Hello and welcome to the Adventures of David Perkins. This time I'm walking around Ludgershall Castle in the county of Wiltshire. Ludgershall Castle is situated within two adjacent enclosures and surrounded by a series of earthwork banks and ditches. The origins of the earthwork banks tell of the site's previous use as an Iron Age fortification, some 1,000 years prior to the castle's construction. And even though much quarrying and repurposing of the site has occurred since then, the site's Iron Age origins remain evident. The construction of Ludgershall Castle as a medieval fortress was most likely initiated in the late 11th century by the then Sheriff of Wiltshire, Edward of Salisbury. However, Salisbury's ownership of the castle did not last long, and by the beginning of the 12th century the castle had passed into the possession of the crown, namely King Stephen. In 1138, during the anarchy, King Stephen appointed John the Marshal to be the castellan, or custodian of the castle on his behalf. However, John the Marshal did not remain loyal to the king, and later vowed for the Empress Matilda. The castle was further fortified during the anarchy, and it was then that the northern enclosure was probably added. This northern enclosure contained the most important buildings, such as the Great Hall, the Tower, and the royal apartments, all of which were constructed from stone. The castle's southern enclosure, the bailey, contained the castle's farm, stables and kitchens, but since these buildings were largely constructed from wood sourced from the nearby Savernake forest, the material evidence of them is now non-existent. The only remains of the castle structure today is the fragmentary remains of medieval buildings, including the 12th century tower, stone lodgings and a great hall. The castle was much improved during the 13th century by King John, and later by his son and successor, King Henry III. In the year 1210, King John made repairs and improvements to the castle, including the building of the Great Tower, the remains of which can be seen today. The proposed purpose of these renovations was so that King John and Queen Isabella could take advantage of the nearby hunting forest. King John was, like many other nobles of his time, keen on hunting, and visited the castle for this purpose on several occasions. Ludgershall Castle made use of two separate parklands, one adjacent to the northern bank and one to the south of Ludgershall town. The northern park was probably laid out when the castle came into royal ownership, and appears to have been designed to have been seen from a viewing platform on the northern enclosure wall. The park itself stretched away to the east and west, giving the viewer the impression of an enormous parkland extending beyond the horizon. And although this park would have been too small for hunting, it may have been used for hare and rabbit coursing or for tournaments. A second park for hunting game lay to the south of Ludgershall town. King John's successor, King Henry III, was, like his father, clearly taken with the castle and visited on no less than 21 occasions. Between the years 1234 and 1251, King Henry III made many additions and improvements to the castle. The main feature of Henry's building works was a new Great Hall, constructed in 1244. The elaborately decorated Great Hall was used by the king for dining and entertaining, in addition to being the public meeting area of the castle. King Henry also extended and improved the castle's royal apartments, adjacent to the Great Tower. These apartments contained the king and queen's chambers, and at least two chapels. In 1251, King Henry built for his son, the future Edward I, a new great chamber, complete with two fireplaces and two privy chambers. Although King Henry III commissioned and paid for the improvements to the castle, Ludgershall was technically owned by Queen Eleanor, to whom the king gave the castle on the occasion of their marriage in 1236. From about the year 1317, during the reign of Edward II, Ludgershall Castle became referred to as the King's Manor, and in a similar fashion to that of Henry III, the castle was given to successive queens and royal dependents, including Queen Philippa, wife of Edward III, and later their daughter Isabel, Countess of Bedford. It's not known when the castle formally stopped being used by the Crown, but it was certainly visited less and less frequently in the 14th and 15th centuries. And by the 1540s, the castle buildings had been dismantled, leaving only the tower standing, which became a garden feature for a nearby house.